Do you know what the most dangerous lie you've been told about money is? That accumulating it is enough. That filling bank accounts will give you the security you're looking for. That working harder automatically means earning more. I am Solomon, and I was once where you are now. Not in poverty, but trapped in the illusion that wealth is about accumulation. That more money simply means more security. I learned the hard way that this thinking keeps you forever hungry, forever anxious, forever one step away from losing everything you've built. Most people spend their entire lives chasing financial freedom while unknowingly building their own financial prison. They hoard when they should flow. They grab when they should give. They count coins while their capacity to create wealth withers away. This is not your fault. No one ever taught you the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 truths about money that will shatter everything you believe about prosperity. These aren't feel-good platitudes or get-rich-quick schemes. These are the principles that built kingdoms, that created legacies lasting thousands of years. These truths will transform you from someone who earns money into someone who commands it. But understand this: what I'm about to reveal will demand that you abandon the comfortable lies you've been telling yourself about your financial future. It will require you to see money not as your master, but as your servant. And most importantly, it will challenge you to become the kind of person who doesn't just make money, but who creates lasting wealth that serves generations. The question is not whether these principles work. History has already proven that. The question is whether you're ready to stop being a victim of your financial circumstances and start being the architect of your financial destiny. If you're tired of feeling like money controls your life instead of the other way around, if you're ready to learn how true wealth thinks and moves and grows, then stay with me. But first, subscribe to this channel, because what you're about to discover will change not just how you handle money, but who you become in the process. True 1. Wrong beliefs about money and the origin of true wealth. You wake up every morning thinking about numbers. The number in your bank account, the number on your paycheck, the number you need to feel safe. You've been programmed to believe that wealth is a mathematical equation, that if you just accumulate enough zeros behind a digit, you'll finally have what you're searching for. But every night, as you lay your head on your pillow, that gnawing emptiness returns. The fear whispers that no amount will ever be enough. I am Solomon, and I possessed more gold than any man before or after me. Yet I tell you this truth that will shatter your comfortable delusions about money. You are not poor because you lack currency. You are poor because you misunderstand what wealth truly is. The greatest tragedy of our time is watching brilliant minds chase shadows while the substance of prosperity passes them by completely. Most people approach money like a beggar approaches a king. They grovel, they scheme, they sacrifice everything sacred for a handful of coins. They believe accumulation is achievement. They count their possessions and mistake inventory for wealth. This is not wealth. This is financial slavery disguised as success. True wealth begins in the mind and flows outward, not the reverse. Imagine a man who spends his life collecting water in buckets, believing that the more buckets he fills, the richer he becomes. Meanwhile, another man learns to dig wells. The first man works harder, sweats more, accumulates more buckets. But when drought comes, the bucket collector dies of thirst while the well digger drinks freely. The bucket collector confused activity with accomplishment. He confused possession with power. There was once a merchant in my kingdom who owned more camels than any trader in the East. His caravan stretched beyond the horizon. His warehouses overflowed with goods. Yet this man lived in constant terror. Why? Because his wealth existed outside of him. Every bandit on every road was a threat. Every storm was a catastrophe. Every political shift could destroy him overnight. His riches were not his strength but his weakness. They controlled him more than he controlled them. Compare this to my master craftsman, who owned nothing but the knowledge in his hands and the wisdom in his mind. Kings from distant lands summoned him. His work was sought by emperors. Armies could not steal his skill. Thieves could not rob his understanding. Floods could not wash away his expertise. This man was wealthy beyond measure because his wealth lived within him, where no external force could reach it. Here is where you must choose your path. Will you continue chasing the shadow of wealth, accumulating things that own you more than you own them? Or will you begin building the inner kingdom where true prosperity resides? The shift is not in your bank account. The shift is in your understanding of what makes you truly rich. Stop measuring your worth by your net worth. Start measuring your wealth by your ability to create value from nothing. The richest man is not the one who needs the least, but the one who can produce the most with whatever he has. Wealth is not what you can take from the world. Wealth is what you can give to the world that no one else can. Your real fortune is not hidden in some future windfall. It is buried in your unrealized potential, waiting for you to stop digging in the wrong places and start mining the gold within yourself. True 2. Requesting wisdom before gold. Every ambitious person I have ever known asked for the same thing when given the chance to choose. More money, bigger houses, larger kingdoms, more power. They looked at the immediate and missed the eternal. They grabbed for the fruit and ignored the tree that could bear fruit forever. When the voice of the Almighty came to me in that dream at Gibeon, offering me anything I desired, I stood at the crossroads of human ambition. I could have asked for the gold of Egypt, the armies of Assyria, the land of all nations. Instead, I asked for something that seemed less valuable to the world's eyes but was more precious than all earthly treasures combined. I asked for wisdom. I asked for understanding. I asked for discernment to lead and judge fairly. This was not humility speaking. This was strategy in its purest form. I understood something that escapes most minds, consumed by immediate gratification. Wisdom is the mother of all prosperity. Knowledge is the father of all sustainable success. Without these, any wealth given to you becomes a burden you cannot carry and a responsibility you cannot handle. Think of wisdom as the master key that opens every door you will ever need to walk through. Gold can buy you entry to certain rooms, but wisdom builds the entire house. Armies can conquer territories, but wisdom creates alliances that make armies unnecessary. Treasure can solve immediate problems, but wisdom prevents most problems from ever arising. I remember the first major decision I faced as king. 2 women came before me, both claiming the same baby as their own. The court looked to me for judgment. Gold could not solve this. Military might was useless. Political connections meant nothing. Only wisdom could cut through the deception and reveal the truth. When I suggested cutting the baby in half, the real mother's love was immediately revealed. The kingdom saw that their young king possessed something more valuable than wealth. They saw divine wisdom in action. That single display of wisdom brought me more riches than I could have imagined. Nations heard of the judgment and came seeking my counsel. They brought gifts, tribute, trade agreements. They formed alliances, not because of my gold, but because of my understanding. The Queen of Sheba herself traveled from the ends of the earth not to see my wealth, but to test my wisdom. And when she witnessed it, she opened her treasuries to me willingly. This is the divine principle that governs true prosperity. Seek wisdom first, and wealth follows naturally. Seek wealth first, and you will forever chase what runs away from you. Wisdom attracts resources. Knowledge magnetizes opportunity. Understanding draws abundance like light draws life. But here is the deeper truth. When God granted me wisdom, He also gave me riches and honor beyond measure, not because I asked for them, but because wisdom naturally creates the conditions for wealth to flourish. A wise man creates value wherever he goes. He solves problems others cannot solve. He sees opportunities others miss. He builds what others cannot build. The turning point in your financial life is not when you learn to make more money. It is when you learn to think more wisely. Stop chasing quick returns and start developing deep understanding. Stop looking for shortcuts and start building knowledge that compounds over time. The investment you make in your mind today will pay dividends for the rest of your life. Before you pursue your next financial opportunity, ask yourself this question: do I have the wisdom to steward what I am seeking? Do I understand the principles that created the wealth I want to attract? Am I building the character that can handle the responsibility that comes with true prosperity? The man who seeks gold and finds wisdom is doubly blessed. But the man who seeks wisdom first receives both the gold and the capacity to multiply it beyond his dreams. Truth 3. The true measure of wealth. You have been taught to measure your life in digits, bank statements, credit scores, property values. Investment portfolios. You check these numbers like a patient checks their pulse, believing they tell you whether you are financially alive or dying. But what if I told you that every wealthy man I have known has been measuring the wrong things entirely? I have watched men with millions live in poverty of spirit. I have seen individuals with empty bank accounts create kingdoms from nothing. I have observed the curious phenomenon where those who count their wealth most carefully often possess the least of it, while those who barely think about money seem to attract it effortlessly. This is not coincidence. This is the natural law of true prosperity. Real wealth cannot be counted because it cannot be contained. It flows like light, touches like wisdom, grows like understanding. When you measure wealth only by accumulation, you become a collector instead of a creator. You become a hoarder instead of a multiplier. You become poor in the midst of your plenty because you have confused the shadow with the substance. Think of two farmers standing in identical fields. One farmer counts his seeds obsessively, hoarding them in barns, protecting them from every threat. He measures his wealth by how many seeds he possesses at any given moment. The other farmer plants his seeds, tends them wisely, harvests the multiplication, then plants again. Which farmer is truly wealthy? The one who hoards what diminishes, or the one who sows what multiplies? I once knew a man in my court who could create beauty from base metals. Give him copper and tin, and he would return vessels worthy of kings. Give him rough stones, and he would craft jewelry that made queens weep with desire. This man owned no mines, controlled no trade routes, possessed no vast inheritance. Yet every ruler in the known world sought his work. His wealth was not in what he owned, but in what he could create. His riches lived not in his possession, but in his ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Now contrast this with another man I knew, born into vast inheritance, owner of gold mines and silver veins. He counted his wealth daily, protected it fiercely, trusted no one with its management. But he possessed no skill to create more, no vision to multiply what he had, no understanding of how to transform resources into greater value. When bandits discovered his hoarding places, when political upheaval seized his lands, when economic shifts devalued his metals, he was left with nothing. His wealth existed outside of him, and when the outside world changed, his wealth vanished like smoke. The truth that will transform your understanding of prosperity is this: your ability to create value is worth infinitely more than your ability to accumulate objects. The man who can solve problems will never lack for resources. The woman who can create what others need will never want for abundance. The individual who can transform situations, heal relationships, build solutions, and generate innovation carries wealth that cannot be stolen, taxed away, or lost in market crashes. Stop asking how much money you have. Start asking how much value you can create. Stop counting what you own. Start developing what you can offer. Stop measuring your net worth. Start building your ability to produce worth from nothing but your mind, your skills, and your character. Your bank account is not your wealth. It is simply the temporary storage container for wealth you have already created. Your true wealth is your capacity to fill that container again and again, no matter how many times it is emptied. The man who can earn money is richer than the man who merely has money. The woman who can create prosperity is wealthier than the woman who simply inherited prosperity. Physical gold can be stolen, market investments can collapse, property can be seized, but the wisdom to create wealth, the skills to generate value, and the character to build trust, these treasures compound daily and can never be taken from you. True 4. Metaphor of money as a river. You have been treating money like a precious stone, something to be grasped tightly and hidden away safely. But money is not a stone. Money is water. And water, when handled incorrectly, becomes either a destructive flood or a stagnant poison. The secret to prosperity lies not in controlling money, but in understanding its nature and directing its flow. I have observed this truth across decades of reign over the wealthiest kingdom in history. Money that pools without movement becomes corrupt. Money that flows without direction disappears into wasteland. But money that flows with wisdom and intention becomes the source of all abundance, nourishing everything it touches while never diminishing at its source. Consider the great rivers that bring life to nations. The Nile does not hoard its waters in fear of drought. It flows consistently, depositing rich soil along its banks, enabling entire civilizations to flourish in what would otherwise be desert. But imagine if some foolish king decided to dam the entire river, hoarding all its water in one massive reservoir. What would happen? The stored water would grow stagnant, breed disease, and lose its life-giving properties. Meanwhile, the lands downstream would wither and die from lack of nourishment. This is precisely what happens when you treat money like a finite resource to be hoarded, rather than a renewable energy to be circulated wisely. The wealthy man who locks his gold in vaults, who refuses to invest, who will not spend on what creates value or helps others, finds that his money loses power over time. It does not multiply. It does not create opportunity. It becomes dead weight instead of living force. I learned this lesson through watching my own treasurer, a man obsessed with keeping our kingdom's wealth safely stored. He built vaults within vaults, guards around guards, systems upon systems to ensure that no gold ever left our treasuries without his personal approval. His intentions were noble, but his understanding was flawed. While our gold sat locked away, other kingdoms were using their resources to build trade relationships, develop new technologies, and expand their influence. Their flowing money was creating more money. Our stagnant money was creating nothing but anxiety. But flowing money without wisdom is equally destructive. I have witnessed kingdoms fall because their rulers spent lavishly without strategy, giving generously without discernment, investing blindly without understanding. Their money flowed like a broken dam, rushing out so quickly that nothing could be built upon its path. They confused movement with progress, spending with wisdom. The master of money learns to channel it like a skilled engineer channels water. Some flows toward immediate needs, ensuring survival and stability. Some flows toward future growth, planted like seeds in fertile ground. Some flows toward helping others, creating goodwill and building relationships that will return multiple fold. And yes, some is held in reserve, not hoarded in fear, but stored strategically for opportunities and emergencies. Think of your monthly income as a river flowing toward your life. If you dam it completely through miserly hoarding, it stagnates and loses its power to nourish your dreams. If you let it flow away completely through mindless consumption, it disappears without creating anything of lasting value. But if you direct it wisely, channeling portions toward different purposes with intention and strategy, it becomes the source of continuous abundance. The wealthy understand this flow principle intuitively. They do not think in terms of spending money or saving money. They think in terms of directing money toward its highest use. They ask not whether they can afford something, but whether directing money toward this purpose will create more flow in return. Here is your new relationship with money. See it as energy that must move to remain alive. Direct it toward what grows. Channel it toward what multiplies. Allow it to flow through you, not to you. Become not the end destination of money, but the wise director of its journey. Money wants to flow. Your job is not to stop it, but to guide it toward creating the life you desire while ensuring the flow never stops. True 5. The price of unrestrained ambition. I have sat with kings who owned nations yet could not sleep in peace. I have dined with merchants whose warehouses overflowed while their families starved for affection. I have counseled men who conquered every external enemy but lost the war within their own souls. They achieved everything the world calls success, yet paid a price that made their victory taste like ashes in their mouths. There is a price for every fortune, and most men never calculate the true cost until the bill comes due. They see the gold but ignore the weight. They count the profits but miss the losses that cannot be measured in currency. They win the world and lose themselves, thinking they have gained everything when they have actually traded away what made them human. Ambition without boundaries becomes a fire that consumes not just what you want to burn, but everything you hold dear. I have watched this fire spread through the hearts of good men, transforming them into strangers their own children fear to approach. They began seeking wealth to protect their families and ended sacrificing their families to protect their wealth. Picture the successful businessman you know, the one everyone envies. His company grows larger each year. His investments multiply. His name appears in important places. But when did you last see him laugh with genuine joy? When did you last witness him sit still without checking his phone? When did you last observe him look at his wife with the wonder he once possessed? Success has given him everything except the ability to enjoy what he has gained. I remember a merchant prince who came to my court, one of the wealthiest men in the known world. He could buy armies, influence nations, command the loyalty of thousands. But as we spoke through the evening, a deeper truth emerged. He had not held his infant son because his hands were always busy with contracts. He had not truly listened to his wife speak because his mind was always calculating the next opportunity. He had not watched a sunset in years because his eyes were always focused on ledgers and profit margins. He asked me the question that haunts every man who has climbed too high too fast. Was it worth it? All the gold, all the power, all the respect, all the fear he commanded. Was it worth the silence at his dinner table? Was it worth the way his children spoke to him like he was a stranger? Was it worth becoming someone he himself no longer recognized when he looked in the mirror? This is the price of unrestrained ambition. You start by pursuing wealth to enhance your life, but end by sacrificing your life to pursue wealth. You begin working for money, but money begins working you, demanding more hours, more sacrifice, more compromise with your values, more distance from what you love. The man who will pay any price eventually discovers that some prices cannot be unpaid. You cannot buy back the childhood you missed while building your empire. You cannot purchase the trust you lost while chasing opportunities. You cannot recover the peace you traded for profit. Some transactions are permanent, and the currency is not gold but your very soul. But here is what separates the wise rich from the foolish rich. The wise rich decide their price before they enter the marketplace. They determine what they will never sacrifice, no matter how much wealth is offered in exchange. They set boundaries not from weakness, but from understanding that some things are priceless precisely because they cannot be replaced. The truly wealthy man is not the one who has accumulated the most, but the one who has kept the most of what matters while accumulating wealth. He has gained prosperity without losing his humanity. He has built an empire without destroying his character. He has achieved success without sacrificing his soul. Before you pursue your next opportunity, before you chase your next goal, before you sacrifice your next evening with family or your next moment of peace, ask yourself this question. What price are you willing to pay? And more importantly, what price are you unwilling to pay, no matter how much wealth is offered in return? The poorest rich man is the one who sold everything valuable to buy everything worthless. True 6. Immediate practical action to improve finances. You have listened to enough theory. You have consumed enough wisdom. You have dreamed enough dreams about future prosperity. But nothing changes until you act, and nothing acts until you decide, and nothing decides until you commit to movement today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. I have discovered that most people remain financially trapped, not because they lack knowledge, but because they refuse to take the simple actions that knowledge demands. They want transformation without effort, prosperity without sacrifice, wealth without the discipline of changing how they currently handle what they already possess. The path to abundance begins not with grand gestures but with small, immediate decisions that compound over time. You do not need more money to begin building wealth. You need more wisdom about the money you already have flowing through your life. You need to stop the leaks before you increase the flow. Right now, as I speak these words, you have 3 expenses bleeding money from your life unnecessarily. These are not essential costs. These are convenience purchases, comfort spending, or subscriptions that made sense when you started them, but no longer serve your highest good. You know what they are. Your conscience has whispered about them, but you have ignored the whisper because change requires the slight discomfort of saying no to what feels easy. Take out paper and pen. I am serious. Do not simply think about this. Write it down. List 3 expenses you can eliminate today without any real harm to your life or well-being. Perhaps it is the premium subscription you rarely use. Perhaps it is the daily purchase that has become habit rather than necessity. Perhaps it is the monthly service that duplicates something you already have access to elsewhere. These 3 cuts may seem small, But small improvements repeated daily create enormous results over time. The $5 saved daily becomes $150 monthly. $150 monthly becomes $1,800 yearly. $1,800 yearly becomes $18,000 over a decade when invested wisely. Never despise the small changes that seem insignificant to your immediate feelings but are enormously significant to your long-term freedom. Now, identify 3 actions you can take this week to increase your income or improve your financial position. Not next month, not when you have more time. This week, perhaps it is finally listing items you no longer need for sale. Perhaps it is reaching out to a potential client you have been meaning to contact. Perhaps it is applying for that position or starting that side project you have been postponing. The third action is asking for help, advice, or opportunity from someone whose financial wisdom you respect. Most people suffer in isolation when the solution to their financial challenges lies in the knowledge and connections of people they already know. Pride keeps you poor when humility could make you rich. One conversation with the right person can open doors that years of individual effort cannot budge. But here is the crucial element that separates those who succeed from those who fail after hearing advice like this. You must act immediately, not eventually. The longer you wait between inspiration and action, the weaker the inspiration becomes, and the stronger your resistance grows. Your current financial condition is the result of all the actions you have taken and all the actions you have avoided taking. Different results require different actions. I have learned that small strategic adjustments compound into major life transformations when applied consistently over time. The wealthy are not those who make perfect decisions, but those who make better decisions more consistently than the average person. They cut expenses that do not serve their goals. They increase income through focused action. They seek wisdom from those who have what they want to achieve. Stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. Start with what you know, where you are, using what you have. Perfection is the enemy of progress, and progress is the mother of prosperity. Take action today, not because you see the entire path clearly, but because you trust that each right step reveals the next right step. Your financial future is not determined by the economic conditions around you, but by the economic decisions within you. Make 3 good decisions today, and tomorrow you will be in a slightly better position to make 3 more. True 7. Financial and spiritual traps. Even I, Solomon, with all the wisdom granted to me from above, with wealth beyond imagination and power over nations, fell into traps that nearly destroyed everything I had built. This confession brings me no pleasure, but it might bring you protection. For if the wisest and wealthiest man in history could be ensnared by the very success he achieved, what makes you think you are immune to the dangers that wealth brings? My downfall began subtly, as all great disasters do. Success had come so easily, wealth had flowed so abundantly, that I began to believe my prosperity was due entirely to my own brilliance rather than divine blessing and wise principles. I started making exceptions to the rules that had made me successful. I convinced myself that I was above the laws that governed ordinary men. I allowed my wealth to purchase what should never be bought. I used my power to indulge desires that should have been disciplined. I made alliances that compromised my values for the sake of political advantage. I accumulated wives and concessions not for love, but for status and treaty. Each compromise seemed small in the moment. Each exception appeared reasonable given my position, but together they created a pattern of moral drift that eventually led me far from the principles that had brought me prosperity in the first place. The trap of wealth is not that money corrupts, but that success creates the illusion of invincibility. When everything you touch turns to gold, you begin to believe you can touch anything without consequence. When every decision you make increases your fortune, you start to think you can make any decision without considering its true cost. When every door opens before you, you assume you can walk through any door without regard for what lies beyond. I remember the night I realized how far I had strayed. I stood in my palace, surrounded by more luxury than any human being had ever possessed, yet feeling emptier than I had ever felt in my youth when I possessed almost nothing. My wealth had multiplied, but my joy had diminished. My power had expanded, but my peace had contracted. My influence had grown, but my integrity had shrunk. The spiritual trap is perhaps more dangerous than the financial one. Financial mistakes can bankrupt your account, but spiritual compromises bankrupt your character. You can recover from financial losses much easier than you can recover from the loss of your moral center. Money lost can be earned again, but innocence lost, integrity compromised, and character damaged require years or even decades to restore, if they can be restored at all. Here is what I learned in my darkest season of success. Financial principles without spiritual anchoring become techniques without transformation. Wealth-building strategies without character-building disciplines create rich people who are poor in everything that matters. You can gain the whole world using methods that cause you to lose your own soul and discover too late that you have made the worst trade in human history. The protection from these traps lies not in avoiding wealth, but in remembering constantly why you are building wealth and who enables you to build it. Every financial decision must be filtered through moral considerations. Every business opportunity must be evaluated not just for profit potential, but for character impact. Every step toward greater prosperity must be taken with humility and gratitude, rather than pride and entitlement. Wealth is a magnifier. If you are generous, it will magnify your generosity. If you are greedy, it will magnify your greed. If you are wise, it will magnify your wisdom. If you are foolish, it will magnify your foolishness. Money reveals who you truly are beneath the surface masks you wear for public approval. The moment you think you have mastered money is the moment money begins mastering you. The instant you believe your success proves your superiority is the instant you begin your journey toward failure. The day you stop applying the principles that built your wealth is the day those principles stop building your wealth. Stay humble in prosperity. Remember that every talent you possess, every opportunity you receive, every success you achieve is a gift to be stewarded rather than a trophy to be hoarded. Build your character as carefully as you build your bank account, because in the end, character determines whether wealth becomes a blessing or a curse. The richest life is not the one with the most money, but the one where money serves righteousness rather than replaces it. These are the 7 truths that, if applied, will completely transform your relationship with money and prosperity. But since you have stayed until now, I want to give you something beyond what I promised. Because wisdom cannot be contained in numbers, there are still 3 principles that few know, but they sustained my kingdom and can sustain your financial life. Consider them a gift, a bonus for those who are truly hungry to learn more. Principle 1. The importance of skills and relationships as real wealth. Gold can be melted down. Precious stones can be stolen. Land can be seized by stronger armies. Bank accounts can be frozen by hostile governments. Every form of material wealth exists outside of you, vulnerable to forces beyond your control. But there is a treasure that belongs entirely to you, that grows stronger with age, that cannot be taken by thieves or destroyed by catastrophe. This treasure is the wealth that lives within you. I have witnessed the rise and fall of many rich men throughout my reign. Those whose wealth depended on what they owned rather than who they were became victims of circumstance. Every political shift threatened them. Every economic change terrorized them. Every new competitor kept them awake at night. They lived as slaves to their possessions, constantly afraid of losing what they had accumulated. But I have also known individuals who possessed almost nothing in terms of material goods, yet commanded respect from kings, received invitations to every important gathering, and never lacked for anything they truly needed. Their wealth was stored not in vaults, but in their abilities. Their security rested not on what they owned, but on what they could create. Consider the master carpenter, who can take rough wood and create furniture worthy of palaces. His tools might be stolen. His workshop might burn down. His materials might be confiscated. But his knowledge of how to join wood, his understanding of grain and balance, his ability to see beauty where others see only lumber, these skills travel with him wherever he goes. He can arrive in any city with empty hands and within days be earning good money, within weeks be building a reputation, within months be establishing a thriving business. Compare this to the man who inherited a successful carpentry business. He owns the finest tools, the largest workshop, the most expensive materials. But he has never learned the skills his inheritance was built upon. When crisis comes, when competition arrives, when circumstances change, He has no internal resources to draw upon. His wealth exists entirely outside of himself, and when external conditions shift, his wealth vanishes like morning mist. I remember a young scribe who came to my court with nothing but the ability to read and write in several languages. This skill was rare and valuable. Within months, he became indispensable to our international correspondence. Within years, he was trusted with diplomatic missions. Within a decade, he had accumulated more practical influence than men born into nobility. His skill opened every door, created every opportunity, provided every advancement he achieved. But skills alone, while valuable, are only half of the equation. The other half is relationships. The network of trust, respect, and mutual benefit you build with other people becomes a form of wealth that multiplies everything else you possess. A man with skills but no relationships works alone. A man with relationships but no skills eventually disappoints those who trust him. But a man with both skills and relationships possesses unstoppable wealth. Relationships are the only investment that pays dividends while you sleep. Every person who trusts your character, respects your abilities, and values your judgment becomes a source of opportunity you could never create through individual effort alone. They think of you when opportunities arise. They recommend you when their friends need what you provide. They defend your reputation when you are not present to defend it yourself. The wealthy understand this principle intuitively. They invest as much time developing their abilities as they do accumulating assets. They spend as much energy building relationships as they do building bank balances. They know that external wealth can be lost overnight, but internal wealth, skills refined through practice and relationships, built through integrity, create an endless capacity to regenerate whatever external wealth they might lose. This is why education is never a waste of time or money, no matter your age or current financial condition. Every skill you master makes you more valuable to the world. This is why treating people well is never just kindness, but also wisdom. Every relationship you nurture becomes a potential source of future opportunity. The question is not how much money you have saved for your future. The question is how much ability you have developed and how many quality relationships you have built. These forms of wealth cannot be stolen, devalued, or destroyed. They appreciate over time rather than depreciate. They create security that no external investment can provide. Stop hoarding gold and start developing the gold mine that is your potential. Stop protecting what you own and start building what you can become. Principle 2. Balanced management and diversification of income sources. The farmer who plants only one crop invites disaster. One season of bad weather, one pest infestation, one market shift can destroy everything he has worked to build. But the farmer who plants multiple crops, who tends diverse fields, who creates various streams of harvest, this farmer survives when others fail and thrives when conditions favor any of his diverse investments. This same principle governs financial prosperity with mathematical precision. The person who depends on a single source of income lives at the mercy of forces beyond their control. One company decision, one economic shift, one industry change can eliminate their entire financial foundation overnight. But the person who creates multiple streams of income, who builds diverse sources of value creation, this person possesses the stability and security that single income earners can never achieve. I learned this truth through observing my own kingdom's economic foundation. When I first inherited the throne, our prosperity depended heavily on military conquest and tribute from defeated enemies. This brought tremendous wealth quickly, but it was unsustainable and dangerous. Our economy was essentially built on taking from others rather than creating value for others. This meant our prosperity was always threatened by stronger armies, shifting alliances, and the natural tendency of oppressed peoples to rebel. So I began diversifying our sources of national wealth. We developed trade relationships that benefited all parties involved. We created agricultural systems that fed both our people and generated surplus for export. We established manufacturing capabilities that transformed raw materials into valuable goods. We built educational institutions that produced skilled workers and innovative thinkers. We invested in infrastructure that facilitated commerce and communication. The result was a kingdom whose prosperity no longer depended on war, but on value creation. Our wealth flowed from multiple sources, each reinforcing the others, creating a stable foundation that could weather any single economic storm. When trade in one region decreased, commerce in other areas continued. When agricultural yields suffered from weather, manufacturing and services maintained our economic strength. This same diversification principle applies to your personal financial life with equal power. If all your income comes from your job, you are essentially running a single-crop farm in a volatile economic climate. No matter how secure that job appears today, you remain vulnerable to forces completely outside your control. Corporate restructuring, economic recession, industry automation, health challenges that prevent you from working. These possibilities exist whether you acknowledge them or not. But imagine if your financial life resembled a well-managed kingdom rather than a single-source dependency. Perhaps you maintain your primary job while building a side business that generates additional income. Perhaps you develop investment portfolios that pay dividends while you focus on active work. Perhaps you create digital products or services that generate passive income while you sleep. Perhaps you rent out property or equipment that you own but don't need full-time. The goal is not to become overwhelmed by managing multiple complex systems. The goal is to create multiple simple systems that each contribute to your overall financial stability and growth. Start with what you know and gradually expand into areas where you can develop expertise and create value. But diversification without management is chaos. Multiple income streams managed poorly create more problems than single income sources managed well. This is where the principle of controlled flow becomes essential. Like a skilled irrigator who directs water through multiple channels to nourish different crops without flooding any single field, you must learn to manage multiple financial streams with wisdom and attention. Each income source requires different skills, different time investments, different risk management strategies. The key is to develop systems that minimize the time and energy required to maintain each stream, while maximizing the value each stream contributes to your overall financial health. Some streams will be more active, requiring regular attention and effort. Others will be more passive, providing steady returns with minimal ongoing involvement. The wealthy understand that true financial security comes not from earning more money but from earning money in more ways. They build multiple income streams not from greed but from wisdom. They understand that diversification is not complexity for its own sake, but intelligent preparation for an uncertain future. Start where you are, with what you have, using what you know. Add one additional income stream this year. Master it, systematize it, then add another. Build your financial foundation like a wise architect builds a lasting structure, with multiple supports that strengthen each other rather than compete for resources. Financial freedom belongs to those who free themselves from dependence on any single source of income. Principle 3. Discipline and repetition of small decisions. Every great fortune in history was built not through dramatic windfalls, but through the patient accumulation of wise decisions, repeated consistently over time. Yet most people spend their lives searching for the one big break, the perfect opportunity, the magical moment that will transform their financial situation instantly. They want harvest without planting, fruit without tending, wealth without the daily discipline that wealth requires. I have observed this pattern countless times throughout my reign. Men come to my court seeking the secret to my prosperity, expecting some complex strategy or hidden knowledge that will immediately elevate their financial condition. They are always disappointed to discover that the foundation of lasting wealth is not mysterious but mundane, not complicated but simple, not dramatic but disciplined. The secret they seek is not a secret at all. It is the consistent application of basic principles over extended periods of time. It is choosing long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, repeatedly, even when no one is watching and no immediate reward is visible. It is making the right small decision today, then making it again tomorrow, then again the next day, until what seemed difficult becomes automatic, and what felt like sacrifice becomes natural. Consider how a river carves the deepest canyons, not through violent force applied once, but through gentle persistence applied constantly. Drop by drop, day by day, year by year, the soft water shapes the hardest stone. The river does not grow impatient with the process. It does not seek shortcuts through the mountain. It simply flows consistently in the same direction, and time transforms its gentle persistence into overwhelming power. Your financial discipline must operate with the same patient persistence. The daily decision to spend less than you earn seems insignificant in the moment, but becomes the foundation of all financial freedom over time. The weekly decision to invest some portion of your income appears to make little immediate difference, but creates the compound growth that eventually provides true wealth. The monthly decision to educate yourself about money, to read about investments, to study successful financial strategies. This may seem less exciting than other activities, but builds the knowledge that enables wise financial choices. I remember watching my own financial decisions compound over the years of my reign. In the early years, choosing to invest in infrastructure rather than personal luxury felt like sacrifice. Building roads instead of palaces, funding education instead of entertainment, establishing trade relationships instead of accumulating treasures for display. These decisions did not provide immediate gratification. But over time, the roads generated commerce, the education produced innovation, the trade relationships created wealth that far exceeded what any personal accumulation could have achieved. The pattern is always the same. Small discipline repeated consistently creates large results over time. Small indulgence repeated consistently creates large problems over time. The choice between discipline and indulgence happens not once in some dramatic moment of decision, but hundreds of times in small moments when you think no one is watching and nothing important is being determined. But here is the trap that destroys more financial futures than economic recession or investment losses. The trap of believing that your small daily decisions do not matter because their consequences are not immediately visible. You buy coffee instead of brewing at home, and your bank account looks the same. You skip investing this month because something else seems more pressing, and your future appears unchanged. You spend on credit instead of waiting to save, and tomorrow feels identical to yesterday. The compound effect works in both directions with equal power. Just as wise decisions compound into prosperity, foolish decisions compound into poverty. Just as good habits create positive momentum, bad habits create negative momentum. The direction you are headed financially today is determined not by your big financial decisions but by your small financial habits repeated daily. This is why ostentation and purposeless accumulation are so dangerous to long-term wealth building. When you focus on appearing wealthy rather than becoming wealthy, you direct your resources toward consumption rather than investment. When you accumulate things instead of accumulating assets, you satisfy your immediate desires while sacrificing your future freedom. The discipline of delayed gratification, of building net worth rather than net worth appearance. This discipline separates those who become genuinely wealthy from those who merely look wealthy temporarily. True financial building must be anchored in spiritual values rather than just mathematical calculations. Money management requires both emotional control and technical knowledge working together in harmony. You must understand both the mechanics of wealth creation and the character required to sustain wealth once created. The wealthy life is not built through spectacular financial victories, but through ordinary financial discipline applied extraordinarily consistently over time. The moment arrives when you must choose between two paths that will define not just your financial future, but the very essence of who you become. One path leads to the accumulation of things that rust, decay, and ultimately return to dust. The other leads to the cultivation of wealth that transcends material form and touches the eternal. Picture yourself years from now, standing before those you love most. Will you be remembered as someone who counted coins, or as someone who created value? Will your legacy be measured in the size of your bank account, or in the depth of wisdom you shared and the lives you transformed through principled prosperity? The choice you make today echoes through generations. Every decision to apply wisdom over impulse, every moment you choose character over convenience, every time you build rather than merely acquire, you are not just changing your financial trajectory. You are becoming the kind of person whose wealth serves a purpose greater than personal comfort. The river of your life flows toward an inevitable destination. The question is not whether you will leave something behind, but what you will leave behind. Will it be debt and regret, or will it be a foundation of wisdom upon which others can build their own prosperity? This transformation requires guides who understand the journey, fellow travelers who share the commitment to principled wealth building. If you choose to walk this path of wisdom, to join those who build kingdoms rather than just bank accounts, then continue this journey with us. Your financial awakening is not a destination you arrive at, but a way of being you grow into, one wise decision at a time.